Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Run in the Paint podcast. Guys, how are you doing today?
What's up, everybody?
Doing great. It's great to be on this great podcast.
Let's go,
Ben! Special guest Ben Axelrod. If you guys watched the OG Miles and Goggles show that I did with Jackson last year, we had Ben on a couple of times, and he is on for the first time with Joey and Nick on the Run in the Paint podcast. So Ben, welcome. A very special edition of the Run in the Paint podcast today. Today was the trade deadline, and a lot of stuff went down. Maybe not a lot of big names getting moved around, but certainly some smaller around the edge things that could help some teams out. So, what you guys ready to get started with this?
Yeah, Joey, how did you put it before we started? You said it wasn't like anything significant, but it was like
there wasn't a whole lot of blockbuster trades, but there was a lot of stuff that went down. There was a lot of moves today.
Yeah, for sure. I've got all
definitely very exciting.
Yes, for sure. This is always like the greatest day ever for an NBA fan on Twitter. Just scrolling, trying to refresh to see what Joms are up to. And in some cases, even a Patrick Beverley revealing a trade. We'll get to that later, but I've got all the trades in order. So we'll start with the very first one. We had 3 deals that happened yesterday. We had the Pistons and the Jazz making a deal, with the Jazz sending Simone Fontecchio to the Pistons in exchange for Kevin Knox, a second-round pick via the Washington Wizards, and the draft rights to Gabriel Procida, some Italian player who we'll see if he comes over or whatever. But Simone is on the move to Detroit.
And Kevin Knox has moved to a team in the Western Conference playoff picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Kevin Knox, man. Used to be a baller, had high promise.
Well, reborn in Utah, possibly.
Yeah. Second straight deal that Kevin Knox is getting dealt by the Pistons at the deadline. Last year got moved to Portland, but this to me is a solid move for the Pistons. Simone Fontecchio, not a lot of people may know about him because he plays for the Utah Jazz, but he was very, very solid this year in his second year.
Oh, yeah.
Been their starting small forward for most of the year. And, he can shoot the ball. He can play defense. He's got good size at his position. So for the Pistons to get this guy who's a restricted free agent and get to test him out a little bit, he's going to get a lot of opportunities with the Pistons, especially with the other moves that they made that we'll get to later. I think that it's a great deal for them.
I agree with that.
I can't tell what they're trying to do. Are they trying to win and not get the record, or are they trying to deal their assets like Alec Burks and Bojan Bogdanovic, who they just did today? I just don't understand. Like, one move, they got a guy who is going to make them better, and then they traded 2 of their best players, right?
Yeah, Ben.
Isn't that what they did?
I think for the Pistons that this was a good move, and I like it for them because I think, he'll be solid for them like he was with the Jazz, and I think we can help them out in ways. And then for the Jazz this trade, I would say
it's not that great
for that I'm like not a fan of the
Kevin
deal
Knox
for the
is really
Jazz,
fallen
off. But they will get better defense, I would say, from Kevin Knox. And Knox is a decent 3-point shooter, and I just think Knox is a little bit worse right now than Fontecchio. That's why I just don't like it for the Jazz.
I agree with you.
It's also weird for the Jazz, too. Like, second straight year where, they're playing well right at the deadline in the positioning for the play-in tournament, and they deal a player who's been starting and giving them good minutes. Like last season, they dealt Malik Beasley and Mike Conley and Jared Vanderbilt. This year, they do it for Simone Fontecchio. So it's just interesting. It's like you never know what the Jazz are really thinking. As far as this move goes, I think that it's like Fontecchio is going to be a restricted free agent this year, and he is already 28 years old, even though it's his second year in the league, so you don't want to have to pay him. Might as well give him to the Pistons. I think that's the thinking. But I don't really think Kevin Knox is really much of anything with this. I think it might be the second round pick because it's the Wizards, so it'll be like 32. It'll be a good
Who's the GM for the Jazz?
Danny Ainge, baby.
Trust in Danny Ainge. That's all I'm gonna say. Trust in Danny Ainge.
Do you guys know the meme where it's like the two guys shooting in the corner and they're like passing the ball back and forth and it's like never show your next move or whatever. It's like never let them know your next. That's the Jazz. That is Utah. You just never know. Yeah. You just never know what they're up to.
Yeah, I definitely just don't understand it, but we trust in Danny Ainge.
That's why we're not GMs.
Yeah, that is true. But we'll move on to a deal with the Boston Celtics. We've been talking about it all season that the Celtics, they've been great this season, best team in the league, but they were going to look to make a move to try to bolster their bench and their depth a little bit because that's been their one weakness. And they did that here. They acquire Xavier Tillman Sr. from the Memphis Grizzlies in exchange for Lamar Stevens and 2 second-round picks, one in 2027, one in 2030. I am a fan of this deal for Boston.
I agree.
Yep.
They have 3 centers and 0 power forwards. But
I agree too, Bob.
It's okay.
Great deal for the Celtics, in my opinion.
Shout out to
the
OG dog, Lamar Stevens. Shout out to the OG dog.
Look, that's going to be fun for him to go to Memphis and get to play. Like, we'll get to Memphis and there are more deals later, but they actually got NBA players that can play minutes for them. And Lamar Stevens is going to go ball out. And
that is a step forward, I think. Definitely a step forward.
No, Boston won this trade. That's a huge get for them. That's a huge bolster of the defense right there.
So he was
off the bench.
2 second-round picks and Lamar.
Yes.
Pick from Atlanta and
pick
pick from
Grizzlies,
Dallas.
Yes. And the Grizzlies do this similar to Fontecchio. Xavier Tillman, restricted free agent. Don't want to, really sign him back for next season. Especially this year, he's been really bad offensively, but I don't think that really matters in this case for the Celtics. You really don't need him offensively. The best thing he does on offense is set screens, and you can use that with the Celtics. And his defense is going to be solid as well.
That defense is huge for them.
While the Grizzlies last season, disappointed in the playoffs against the Lakers, he had some solid moments guarding Anthony Davis in stretches in the playoffs last year. And if you can get I don't know how Xavier Tillman fits into their center rotation because you got Porzingis, you've got Horford, you've got Cornette already there. But if you just need like a 3 or 4 minute span in a playoff game, he can give it to you if guys are getting foul trouble and all that. So,
most def. They match up really well. I don't know why I just thought of this, but they just played the Clippers. They match up well with the Clippers after this. I mean, they have a lot of height.
Yeah, it definitely reminds me of this is their like Plumlee or Tice guy off.
Right.
Looking at that, but let's go to another deal to another contender. This one in the Western Conference with the Minnesota Timberwolves acquiring Monte Morris from once again the Detroit Pistons in exchange for Shake Milton, Troy Brown Jr., and a 2030 second round pick. Another great move for a contending team.
Yeah, you got a good role player and backup PG and Monte Morris.
Yeah, I think for the Timberwolves, I like it. And then for the Pistons and what they're trying to do, I like it for them too. So good for both teams is what I think on that trade.
Yeah, it's a solid trade for both ways. It is good to see Minnesota actually buying into them being good this year and bolstering that. I was talking to my dad earlier, and we were talking when it comes to playoff time, it's that first 8 rotation. Like you don't need to go 10, 11 deep when in the playoffs. You really just want to go 8 deep. And Monte Morris is perfect for that.
It is nice to see them buying it because most of the times it's not nice to see the rich getting richer at the deadline. But in this case with Minnesota, it's actually welcoming. Like if it was the Lakers making like a solid move for a backup point guard like Monte Morris, I'd be like, all right, same story, heard it before. But
It's like,
At
oh,
least
here they go
yeah.
again.
Yeah, like
I think
this
it's a
is
solid
good,
move.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Good story as well. The Timberwolves have been this year. Being at the top of the West. I mean, the top of the West is ridiculous right now. Like the Clippers were the 1 seed heading into last night. They lost against the Pelicans and they dropped down to 4. Like it's unbelievable.
Didn't I see that like going into yesterday, it was like there were 4 teams that like the top 4 teams were all separated by 0 games.
Yeah, like the games back, it was all tied
Wow.
for the top 4 teams. It was unbelievable. But even like for Minnesota, I don't remember where I heard this from, just so don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure they're dead last in the NBA in turnover rate. And Monte Morris has always been a guy, with the Denver Nuggets and the Wizards last year that, takes care of the basketball, doesn't make many mistakes on the offensive end of the floor. This year, kind of hard for him to really get any rhythm with the Pistons. He missed the first 43 games of the season due to a right quad injury. But we know this guy to be a, good 3-point shooter, good pick and roll player.
He's got a resume.
He's got a resume. He's very similar at this point in their career to Mike Conley. So you get similar play at the point guard position at all times. And even Jordan McLaughlin as their third guy. They all play similar games. So great for the
Come to the playoffs. You need someone to run that offense and give Mike Conley a break even for like 5 to 10 minutes. And that's the perfect guy for it.
Yeah, and you mentioned the top 8 as well with the Timberwolves now. You now have, your normal starting 5 of Conley, Ant, McDaniels, Towns, and Gobert. And then off the bench, you now have Monte Morris, Kyle Anderson, Naz Reid,
Alexander Walker, McLaughlin.
You've got like nine deep if you need to.
And that's
9,
perfect.
10 deep. That's perfect for this team in the Western Conference.
Definitely.
Moving on to the first deal of today, the actual trade deadline day, we have Buddy Hield finally on the move after being in trade rumors for the last few seasons, whether he's been in Sacramento or Indiana. He's been in trade rumors all over the place. But now he is headed to the 76ers in exchange for Marcus Morris Sr., who was later traded and waived, Furkan Korkmaz, who just got waived, and 3 second-round picks and cash considerations.
3 picks.
All that to say that Buddy Hield is a 76er. What do you guys think about this?
Benjamin,
I'll go first.
Yeah.
For Philadelphia, I think I wasn't totally expecting them to give up what they gave up to the Pacers for Buddy Hield, but I thought it was a good trade for the 76ers because they could really use a great 3-point shooter like Buddy Hield, and I think Buddy Hield's gonna fit into that team well, and I think I think he just makes them a better basketball team, and
definitely. I don't know how I feel
think
about
he'll
it.
make them, tougher for other teams to beat.
Yeah. Nick, what do you think?
It's kind of the same thing I was saying about Detroit. Like they made a trade at a couple weeks ago to get Pascal Siakam to increase their win, their chances of winning this season, and then they trade their 6th man for 3 second-round picks. I just don't get it. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I mean, we'll get to. They made another trade to kind of replace
the Sixers. I get it. I think the Sixers got a good deal.
The Sixers, great deal for them. I was expecting them to make a deal to address the center position more since Embiid is going to be out and we don't know if he's going to come back. Thought they'd do that, but getting Buddy Hield, one of the best 3-point shooters that we've really seen over the last few years, I think is a great move there. But with the Pacers, I'm trying to look at Buddy Hield's contract because I do not remember if he is on the last year of his deal or not. And he is. So this is the last year. This was the last year of his contract.
So this is a loan for the Sixers.
Yes. And Indiana, they made a move to get another 3-point shooter later in the day, getting Doug McDermott. We'll talk about that. So I guess for the Pacers, nothing really crazy. I get them not holding on to Marcus Morris because he's another power forward. Like you're just loaded at power forwards there.
Yeah.
If you're the Pacers, it is kind of
Right.
it's kind of shocking if you're the Pacers though. Like if you were to trade Buddy, you got 3 seconds. That's really it. I'm kind of surprised by that.
Well, yeah, I guess Indiana was one step ahead, and they got McDermott right back for Hield with Morris.
Oh yeah, McDermott for Morris. So
I mean, he kind of fills that similar role-ish because if you're Indiana, I like their depth, and you kind of want the ball in the hands of other guys, not Buddy Hield. You kind of want a guy who's more of a corner stand and shoot guy, and Buddy does have to be on the ball sometimes. So
yeah,
it's a good move. I like him better for Indy that they got Doug back. So
yeah, no, it definitely makes a little more sense since they went out and did make that deal for Doug and McBuckets, but for the Sixers, Buddy Hield taking it. I think that's a good pairing with Tyrese Maxey.
I totally agree.
At the very least, for Buddy Hield, he's going to get to play in the postseason.
That is true.
I'm pretty sure. I'm almost like 100% confident that he's the most experienced player in the league to not play in the playoffs yet. I don't know, like the other candidates. It'd be Lowry Markkinen. Those are like the two probably top guys most games play without a playoff appearance.
Unless you count the play-in, because he did make the play-in with the Cavs.
Yeah, and Lowry did, but yeah, so it's definitely Buddy. He is not playing the playoffs. So at the very least, he'll get some postseason experience, which is really good for him. It's weird to think that one of the best 3-point shooters is never played in the playoffs. But
real ones remember March Madness Buddy Buckets.
Yes, sir. Oklahoma, right? Oklahoma, Buddy.
Yep, he was an Oklahoma
beast.
Yeah.
And March Madness Dougie McBuckets.
Oh God.
I remember the Buddy Hield March Madness version.
Oh man, he was nuts.
Yeah.
All right, what we got next? We going
next up,
Toronto?
Yes, we're going up north with the Toronto Raptors acquiring another Canadian, getting Kelly Olynyk from the Utah Jazz along with Ochai Agbaji in exchange for Kira Lewis Jr., Otto Porter Jr., and a first-round pick for this year, which will be the least favorable of the Thunder, Clippers, Rockets, or Jazz. So it will either be the Thunder or Clippers pick. At the surface of this, I'm not sure what the Raptors are doing here. Getting Kelly Olynyk. Kelly Olynyk is like a guy that I wish was on a better team than he has been because he's played really solid basketball, but it's always been for like, he got traded to the Rockets, the Jazz, the Pistons, and now the Raptors again. Like he's just been on these bad teams and playing solid. I wish he was on a good team.
Yeah, no, it's I actually kind of like it though for the Raptors. Like getting the Canadian back, like I don't look at that. I'm more looking at getting that what is it, the first round pick? And
they gave it up, didn't they?
They gave up the
traded it. They traded it to the Jazz.
Oh, never mind, because that's basically you're just rooting for like Ochai Agbaji, which I like him, but I wouldn't have given up a first round pick for him and Olynyk, especially since they're not a playoff contender.
Yeah, I think it's a good move for Utah, but I read it for Toronto as they're trying to win, and like they're only 4 games back from Atlanta, and they could fall off. The Chicago could fall off at any moment.
Yeah, I wonder if Toronto was looking at it like, the Hawks, they're gonna make a trade. The Bulls are gonna make a trade, so they're gonna fall down and we're gonna jump up. But that did not happen.
That would be a terrible. They should fire that GM if that's his line of thinking.
Ujiri, man.
If that's his line of thinking.
I'm sure there are teams that do that sometimes though. They're like, this team's gonna make. This team has been rumored to make a big trade. They're gonna do it, so we're gonna jump up.
Completely fumbled the bag.
Yeah, for the Jazz though, it's weird to me for both sides too, because for the Jazz, like they already gave up Simone Fontecchio earlier in the day, so you would think, okay, that's gonna open up minutes for Ochai, but then they just traded him away too. And I know Ochai Agbaji, he's shown flashes, he's shown the athleticism, he hasn't really shot the ball that well since being in the NBA, but he's also gotten inconsistent minutes, so I thought that he'd get more time with this trade. Now he's headed to Toronto. Ben, what do you think?
I think this was a interesting trade and one that I didn't see coming at all today. And my thoughts on this for both teams are, well, Jazz, I think that wasn't a good trade for them. I think they should have not did that in a trade for just Kelly Olynyk and Oshai and Baji.
I guess the question is, do you guys think that if we all put our GM hats on and we're looking around the league, do you think they could have gotten something better for Kelly Olynyk than basically like the 28th pick in the draft?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Probably not.
See, it's close.
I don't know.
It's close because
I don't think Kelly Olynyk's that valuable. Like maybe to a contender, but if you're trading for the Raptors, like
honestly, I would probably say no. But here's the thing: I think it makes sense for them because they, at least the way I read it, and when I'm trying to do as well as I can in our fantasy league, is because they struggle with the rotation. They have 3 guys at that kind of point guard, shooting guard position that don't really get minutes behind Sexton, and that's Clarkson. It's Clarkson, Keontae George, and Taylor Horton-Tucker. They all are kind of inconsistent minutes with Ochai. So
that's another guy that didn't get moved today. That I didn't even think about Taylor Horton-Tucker. Yeah. I thought for sure he was going to get moved.
He's getting inconsistent minutes all season. Him and Keontae have kind of battled for that backup role, and Clarkson's been more dominant there in that role. So I just think they're opening the minutes for those 3.
They definitely had to make a move, and I guess they believed in Ochai the least.
Ochai's kind of like a guard because he's kind of undersized for that forward spot, and he doesn't really dunk on nobody.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I mean, you know what? That's a good perspective though to look at it because I didn't think about how loaded that guard room was. Like that does make sense. I guess I just wish that they. I guess I just wish that they gave Olynyk to a different team because I know for me being a Cavs fan, I should absolutely hate Kelly Olynyk because of the Kevin Love stuff. But as a basketball player, specifically this year, he's playing very well in limited minutes. Like he's giving you, 8 points, 5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists in 20 minutes per game as a center. Like that's really decent. Those numbers don't sound high, but 4 assists for a backup center is like that's great. Yeah. So I guess I just wish he went to a different team, but that's a decent deal when you look at it from that perspective.
Would you be happy if Toronto wins the play-in and gets an 8 seed?
No.
With him?
No. No, I don't like the Raptors.
What if, think about this, because I was again talking to my dad before when he was on the way home, and he was saying that the Cavs didn't make any deals today, but he thinks we needed a big man. What if would you have wanted Kelly Olynyk if they were willing to trade him to Cleveland? Like a backup big man, because we don't really have anybody.
I don't think so. If this was the package and we had to give up a first round pick, we don't have any first round picks.
So we would have to give it a better first round.
We wouldn't have had anything to give. That's why I'm like, with the talk about the Cavs, like I'm very, very, very fine that they did not make a deal today. Mm-hmm. I'm very fine that they didn't make a move today.
I agree with that. That's what I was saying. I was like,
we're
one of the hottest teams right now. Everyone's starting to get healthy. I think it's
first round playoff exit.
I wanted the Cavs to just stay put.
They did,
trees.
And they did that. Yes, let's go.
All right, moving on. Let's go. Let's talk about Gordon Hayward getting traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder in exchange for Trey Mann, Vasilije Micic, Davis Bertans, and draft compensation that has not been announced just yet as we are recording this. Joey, why don't you start with this?
This was my biggest surprise of the day for me personally, just because we've been talking about Gordon Hayward and all of us assumed, and at least even what I was like hearing about like through like Woj and like some other teams talking about it, like everyone thought he was just going to get waived.
Yeah.
We all thought he was going to get bought out, waived, or whatever it was. Him and Kyle Lowry.
Right.
Like we all knew that was going to happen. I guess OKC wanted him, didn't think they were going to get him in the market, like just freedom, even though I thought that would be a really good place for him to go to once he got waived. But
yeah, that is weird. I wonder why OKC didn't just try to get him in the market and why they even gave up anything at all. Because I think it's a good move for Charlotte.
That's a perfect spot for him. That's like a perfect spot.
It's because it's Oklahoma City and they're not going to get a buyout free agent.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Even if they like had. Right.
I mean, think about it. I'd much.
They're a contender though. What if Gordon wants to win a ring?
I'd much rather trade for the guy and be 100% sure he's on my team than have to hope. Because right. Gordon Hayward would have many different options in the free agent market. He'd get suitors from a ton of different contenders. I'd much rather trade for him like this, especially when you really didn't have to give up much. You give up Trey Mann, who has not been in their rotation for really the whole season, Micic, who's been solid backup point guard, but you definitely give him up in a trade to get Gordon Hayward, and then salary filler and Bertans, who was their only veteran. But Gordon Hayward's a veteran, former All-Star with some playoff experience. So I think it's fine, honestly, that they went out and traded for him.
I like it for both teams.
I was gonna say I like it. I like it a lot. I was gonna say, especially for the Hornets, because we thought he was just gonna they were gonna get rid of him for nothing. So the way they even at least got something for him, which is great. But again, even though it was like, even though it's a trade and not like they just cut him and signed him, I thought it's a perfect spot for Gordon Hayward. I really do. Like that's like what they needed. They needed a wing guy who has the playoff experience, for that veteran leadership, who can score and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I think it's a good spot for him.
Agree.
Yeah, Ben, what do you think?
I think Hayward's gonna fit in well with the Thunder, and I really like that trade for OKC. That's just gonna make them even tougher to beat in a really competitive Western Conference right now. And I think for the Hornets in that trade, it was definitely a W for them that they were able to like find the team and the Thunder was willing to make that trade with them instead of then the Hornets, made that trade and they didn't have to waive him, and that was definitely a W for the Hornets, and the Hornets didn't get a bad return back for him. They got a decent return back for him.
No, the fact that they got anything is pretty decent, let alone a former first-round pick with Trey Mann, who was solid the first few years of his career before this season. It's just so loaded at the guard spot. There just wasn't room for him to play.
And with their perennial injury all-star, you never know when you're going to need minutes from a point guard in Charlotte.
True.
Very true. Shout out to fantasy. One last thing before we move on from this Gordon Hayward move. This surprised me, well, first for two reasons. First, when I saw the notification, I saw Oklahoma City is acquiring Gordon Hayward. I'm so used to seeing a trade like that and being like, oh, he's going there to get bought out. Because the last few years, that's what happens. Like Kemba Walker, you're going to OKC to get bought out. Al Horford, you're going to OKC just for a year, then we'll find you a play. Like, for things like that. But then I'm like, wait a minute, they're a really good team. They could actually use Hayward.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is that
I'm
funny. Surprised that them making a trade got them a wing and they didn't get another big, because to me that's their one problem is lack of size, because they really don't have that. They have Chet, obviously, and then Jalen Williams, the Arkansas Jalen Williams coming off the bench. But their wing room and ball handler room, it's so loaded now. You've got Lou Dort, you've got J-Dub, you've got off the bench, you have guys like Aaron Wiggins. Now Gordon Hayward's probably going to come off the bench. You just have a ton of guys to handle the ball. I'm surprised that they didn't go after. Well, maybe they did, and they just didn't get it. But I'm surprised that they weren't able to get a center in the market.
Yeah, the two guys that got moved today were Gafford and Tillman. And, I mean, they didn't have – Gafford got moved for a first, and I think Tillman got moved for a first as well. So maybe they just weren't willing to give up their first. Oh, no, Tillman was a similar package.
Yeah, 2 seconds.
So – they just couldn't get him, I guess.
Well, there was another big that got traded from the Hornets.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
that'll
Yeah.
come up soon too. We'll get to that soon. But yeah, overall, well, I'm sure OKC will figure it out. Great move for them to get Gordon Hayward as well. And heck, if he likes it there in OKC, definitely see him re-signing for a solid deal while you have to start paying some of these younger guys, their money as well. Next deal, we have another deal involving the Detroit Pistons with them acquiring Daniel House Jr. and a second round pick from the Sixers. They immediately bought out Daniel House, and the Sixers now have salary cap room to try and sign Kyle Lowry in the buyout market. So we could talk more about Kyle Lowry if that actually ends up happening to the Sixers, but to me that seems like that's gonna happen. He went to Villanova. That seems like that's gonna happen.
That's like a good situation for him.
Yeah,
That's what
for
they
sure.
need. They need a good veteran leadership, another backup point guard, because with their injury issues, you never can be too safe.
Yeah, for sure. But let's move to probably the biggest deal of the day, also involving the Detroit Pistons, with them sending Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks to the New York Knicks in exchange for Quentin Grimes, Evan Fournier, Malachi Flynn, Ryan Arcidiacono, and multiple second round picks.
That's the blockbuster trade, but not blockbuster.
Yes, this is the big one. This is the big trade to really get the Knicks going for it, man. They just got so much better.
Yeah, they're really going for it.
Yeah, I think I saw like a funny TikTok earlier of someone who was like a Knicks fan and was like, "Oh my gosh, we traded Quentin Grimes for Alec Burks. What are we doing?" And then it says Bojan Bogdanovic is like, "You know what? I like Bojan. That's a good deal. Never mind. I'm good with that."
It's a great deal. And the Knicks, a team that is loaded with first round picks. They didn't give up a first round pick. They gave up 2 second round picks to get Bojan Bogdanovic, who is still, I know it's on the Pistons, but he's been a 20-point per game scorer the last few years, a great 3-point shooter. And Alec Burks, there was a stretch where he was playing awful and could not shoot. But on the season, he's shooting 40% from three. He's played for Tom Thibodeau and the Knicks before. He's one of Tibbs' favorite guys. And you give up disgruntled players with Quentin Grimes and Evan Fournier finally deal off his contract. This is a perfect trade for the Knicks. I did not think that they would get both of these guys. I thought that it would be, we've been talking, the past several weeks about Malcolm Brogdon.
Is the Knicks front office, they get the front office of the year award
executive
for
of the
move?
year? They might, I think they might
definitely
be
for this past month. Definitely for this past month.
Yeah.
Those guys fit right into that culture they got going in New York right now.
100%.
Tough stuff going. And
all
then,
that just to try to beat the Cavs.
Poor Quentin Grimes. I mean, geez.
That is, you go from one of the top teams in the East to the Pistons, but he's going to get a chance to play now. He's going to have a role. That's kind of what he's been wanting. Like, you've heard him
he might be
about
happy.
that throughout the season. So,
especially with the emergence of Dante
DiVincenzo, dude,
New York, man.
The Knicks may have problems figuring out who they want to play.
They're scary now. That's how they gave up a lot of the players. But
you're talking about 8 deep.
Yeah, they're scary.
They are
Can we go with the Knicks 8 deep? We got Brunson, Hart, Randall, Robinson, OG, Hartenstein, Bogdanovic, Burks, DiVincenzo. That's 9.
That's 9 already.
Yeah, I'm putting.
Those are all. They got like 3, 4. They're undersized.
I'm putting down their rotation here. Well, honestly,
I guess Josh Hart
I kind of disagree. I think they're. Well, they can opt to go big or small, depending on how they want to play.
DiVincenzo isn't small either, though.
Yeah, he's smaller at the shooting guard position, probably. I mean, how tall is he? Is he 6'4"?
I would guess at least.
I think he's 6'5".
He might be taller.
As I say, still bigger than both of our starting guards in Cleveland.
Well, I mean, yeah, you don't get much taller.
6'4". Donovan's only 6'3".
But yeah, like
they can opt.
writing out their 10-man rotation, like they could go if they wanted to go bigger. They could go with Brunson. They could start OG at the 2. We've seen him do it in Toronto. They could definitely do that with Bojan, Randall, and Mitchell Robinson. And then off the bench, you can play Alec Burks at the point. We've seen that several times, when he was with the Knicks as well. With DiVincenzo, Hart, Achua, and Hartenstein. They've got a ton of guys they can play.
Yeah,
McBride is like your 11th guy.
Yeah.
They're a deep team. They're a very deep team.
In the Eastern Conference, with a move like this, where does this put them in the grand scheme of things now?
Still
Top
behind
3.
Cleveland. Still behind Cleveland. 3.
Ben, what do you think?
Like, are you just like asking me like, where should he be in the standings? Like off of who I think is
in
the
your
best
in your opinion, where do the Knicks rank in the Eastern Conference? Not looking at the standings.
All right. I think. Trying to debate if I should have them higher than the Cavs or not.
It's either 3 or 4 to me.
I might have them
I'd
at
put
2.
it like.
I think you could have them at 2. You can definitely make an argument for 2.
I might have them at 2.
Go with 2. I like 2 for the dip.
You like them at 2?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sold on the Bucks. I'm a little bit more sold on the Knicks after these 2 moves.
Yeah, that's the thing.
The Bucks and the Cavs.
It's completely different, of course, when you see this on paper. We'll have a while to see this full team actually on paper, because shortly after the trade deadline, it comes out that OG Anunoby, who's missed the last few games with an elbow injury, he's going to miss the next 3 weeks to fully recover from it. So we're not going to really get to see this full team and this full rotation and lineup for a little while here. But just looking at it, they definitely look, very, very solid. That top 4 in the East is going to be another bloodbath, similar to the West. Maybe not record-wise, with, of course, the Celtics. Yeah. They've got the number 1 seed locked up. But 2, 3, and 4 between Cleveland, Milwaukee, and New York, it's going to be tight the whole rest of the season.
Boston 1, Cleveland 2, New York 3, Bucks 4, because the Doc Rivers era is not going well.
Yeah, we could. That's definitely a possibility. Definitely up for debate. But
which is sad because, man, the Bucks were going to have that 2 locked up really early, man. They were killing it.
Yeah, offensively, we've talked about their
defensively, they just have to score more.
Yeah, we've talked about their defense. That's been well documented on this podcast.
They might have just gotten better on defense, though.
Yeah, well, yes, that is another deal. That is soon. Yeah. But first, let's talk about one of the 2 moves that the Dallas Mavericks made to bolster their front court, and that was acquiring Daniel Gafford from the Washington Wizards in exchange for Rashawn Holmes and draft compensation.
This says it's a first-round pick.
Was it a first-round pick?
2024 first-round pick from this year.
Oh,
OKC.
Yeah.
It's OKC's pick.
It's OKC's pick. Oh.
Okay.
And that's going to be a late first-round pick.
Yeah, I mean, you had to give up a first-round pick, but you got your guy. You got your guy.
That's a huge pick.
Yeah, I think it's a good move for Dallas, though, to win this year.
Yeah, Gafford is a great, not great. That's stretching it.
He's starting.
He's a very good energy player in the league. Started every game for Washington. He's top 10 in the league in blocks per game. Really gets most of his offense like a guy like Derek Lively, who they already have. So playing with Luka, Kyrie, you're going to get a ton of alley-oop dunks, going to get to play in pick and roll, going to get to, have the opportunity to get rebounds and stuff like that. Most likely off the bench. That's what I would expect. I'm going to assume that they keep going with Lively starting because he's been playing well all season in that role. But either way, just a very I mean, you can't really say anything else about the deals except that you get better. I mean, Rashawn Holmes wasn't really doing much for you. You get Gafford.
Yeah.
Great move.
I would say great move by Dallas as well. And for Washington, they were able to get a pick back in that deal. I would say since they're a bad team right now, that's good for them. And then get Rashawn Holmes. We'll see how he works out there. But
yeah, just get another chance.
It'll be all right for them having Rashawn Holmes for now.
Yeah, this
Dallas,
really. Or sorry, keep going, Ben.
And for Dallas, at their back a big, basically for Dallas, their big definitely improved with trading for Gafford and get into that more. The other guy we'll talk about who they got.
Yeah, Lively.
Yeah, this part.
He's not. He gets hurt a lot too. So
yeah,
he misses a lot of time. So Gafford's definitely gonna have an opportunity.
Yeah,
that's what we were saying though too. We like ahead of time we were talking about the Mavericks and what they needed. They needed a big man.
Yeah, let's get into the other move that they made now. It's nearly up.
Yes.
So the Mavericks also acquired PJ Washington from the Charlotte Hornets. They also received 2 second-round picks in this deal in exchange for Grant Williams, Seth Curry, and a 2027 first-round pick from the Mavericks, which is top 2 protected. They have a front court now. They have a legit front court in the Western Conference that they can really rely on in games. Like now you have Washington, Lively, and Gafford as your 3 bigs. Like that's very, very solid.
They had to give up their future to get it 2 first-round picks.
I think it's worth it though. You've got Luka and Kyrie. You gotta try to go for it.
They didn't get the guys we were talking about with Kyle Kuzma and Jeremy Grant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something that surprised me. Not really, that they addressed the power forward position, of course, but when this deal happened, like this seemed like we're in the middle of the trades right now. I would have expected this to be a bit of a later deal,
right? Yeah.
So they could try to go for Kuzma
at the buzzer.
Well, you know what? I guess with Gafford, they were talking to the Wizards, so I wonder if they were talking.
I don't think that package is good enough for either of those guys. I mean, Grant, Seth, and a top 2 protected first. I don't think that's good enough for Kuzma or Grant.
Oh no, I totally agree. I just wonder what else were teams asking the Mavericks to give? Like, was it more draft picks? Was it a player?
Who else would have been on their roster? It would have been like Jaden Hardy, who you're taking a big gamble on, or that Josh Green had a lot of interest, but they're kind of dependent on him at this point in the season a little bit. With Luke and Kyrie have only played, I think it's 24 or 25 of the 40-some games.
Yeah, and
Josh Green is solid in his role,
and he starts a lot for them at the small forward position as well when they're all healthy. But just a comparison to last season with the Mavericks. Than their front court. Last year, do you guys remember who their normal starting power forward was last year?
Was it Derek Jones?
Dwight Powell?
It was Reggie Bullock.
Oh, jeez.
Who is naturally a shooting guard. He was the starting power forward last year. Now they have PJ Washington, who isn't having the best offensive year this year, efficiency-wise, but I think he gives them more offensively than Grant Williams. You may lose a little bit defensively, but sometimes it's hard to tell. Like, of course, he's been on the Hornets his whole career. They've been awful defensively this season and really every year that he's been there. So it's hard to tell, like, if he can play good team defense.
Right. If he's the problem or if he's, like, not the problem and just the Hornets need help.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this definitely helps the Mavericks. I think with the addition of both these, I'm going to call it now. They may go to the conference finals.
Please.
Ooh.
They match up with some of those teams really, really well now, especially that they have a good front court.
I mean, Denver and the Clippers are definitely ahead of them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, those two I think are the for sure top of the West.
If they play Minnesota, though, I take the Mavericks.
I think I would too, actually.
Thank you.
The Timberwolves, I just don't really trust the Timberwolves in the playoffs yet.
I don't either.
We'll see on that later on.
It's because Anthony Edwards is like 22.
I trust Ant in the
If
playoffs.
he was
I don't trust the other two.
I don't know. If Anthony Edwards is like 28, I would feel more comfortable.
Well, like before the thing to me with like the Mavericks against the Timberwolves, because I would have these hypothetical scenarios in my head thinking about this before, like, the Mavericks' lack of size may cost them against a Timberwolves team that has so much great size. But now, like,
we can't say
it's definitely it's not obviously it's not equalized. It's hard to get equalized with Karl-Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, and Naz Reid. That's definitely the best three front court, trio in the league. But when you can have them guarded by, actual centers or power forwards, it definitely makes a difference here. So great deadline for Dallas. We'll get to winners and losers later, but I think the Mavericks are definitely one of the big winners of today and the deadline.
Agreed, Miles. That was another great trade they made, getting PJ Washington.
Yeah, for sure. Now let's get into maybe the weirdest trade of the day, and that was Brooklyn.
3-team, right?
Or no, not yet. I've got another one. Maybe a little out of order. I've got the Dennis Schroder trade with him and Thaddeus Young going to Brooklyn in exchange for Spencer Dinwiddie. Thaddeus Young is going to get waived by the Nets. This was weird for two reasons. First of all, Woj had Dennis Smith Jr. scared as heck because that's who he typed in first in the trade.
Damn,
so
that's
Dennis
hilarious.
Smith Jr., I'm pretty sure, I wonder if it's still up, but Dennis Smith Jr. has like he tweeted about it, like with a GIF about it. Like, oh my gosh, no, what? But no, it's Dennis Schroder, so it was a typo.
That's hilarious.
It was similar when a couple years ago, this was back in like 2019. It was when like the Suns and Grizzlies were making a trade, and the Grizzlies had Dylan Brooks and Marshawn Brooks, and they just said, "Yeah, we're gonna throw Brooks in the trade." They didn't specify which one. So the deal it like fell through because they gave the wrong Brooks. But then the second weird part about this is Spencer Dinwiddie is getting waived immediately by Toronto because the Raptors do not want to pay him his $1.5 million contract bonus for playing in enough games.
Oh my.
So
why would they make that deal?
It was just a wacky deal all the way
Very
around.
strange.
I don't get it.
I get it for Brooklyn, 1,000%. I get it for Brooklyn. Dinwiddie, he's kind of been going through the motions the last few months. I know it's been kind of a funny thing to talk about, but he hasn't really played well for them. And on the last year of his deal, you get Dennis Schroder, who makes $7 million less than Dinwiddie, still with a year remaining. And now that he's making a cheaper contract, you now can extend Nick Claxton in the offseason without having to get rid of Dinwiddie. So you're able to have both. For the Raptors, I don't know, just open up more guard room. Now, with the moves, they decided to keep Bruce Brown. You got Quickly. Basically just keep that core together. That's really, I think, what their mindset is on this one.
Masai Ujiri is a good GM. Has been for the last 5-6 years now. Especially because he's the one that made the Kawhi deal. Like, he helped bring a championship to that city, into that country. What the hell is he doing today? Nothing he's done has made sense to me. I'm sorry.
No, this has to be exactly what Miles is saying. Just open up, it has to be like a coaching trade. I don't understand why. Because Schroeder's role was diminishing.
Yes, exactly. His role was diminishing for sure.
They couldn't have gotten a pick out of Brooklyn? like something to help for their future or something.
That garbage fire of an organization finessed your Toronto legend.
Literally automatic loser if you let that GFF take advantage of you.
Oh my goodness! Not this again.
Yeah, Ben, sorry. We have come up with an acronym of the Brooklyn Nets. They are now GFF, Garbage Fire Franchise.
Right. I don't think they're garbage fire, but they've done interesting things before that franchise.
Let me, okay, as we're talking about this, let me go look at this, like an actual article on this trade to make sure I'm not missing something with why they would do this, because they might have a legit reason for doing this, or it could just be just getting the money off the books and allowing people to play, like I was saying earlier.
I think that's got to be it.
That's the only logical thing for me.
But now they really don't have many point guards now, because they dealt they've dealt Malachi Flynn earlier in the year. They dealt Kira Lewis Jr. today. They deal Schroder today for Dinwiddie, who they're waiving.
And they brought in Ochai. That's it.
Yeah, they brought in Ochai and Olynyk.
They lose 3 guards, bring in 2, and keep 1.
Yeah, there is nothing on the Raptors. There's nothing about the Raptors. So interesting move for sure.
I think it's just about quickly.
Yeah, just giving him all the minutes. Now let's move over to the 3-team deal. And Woj and Shams didn't really report this clear enough to determine what players are going to what teams, but I was able to figure it out. Shout out to CBS Sports for actually having the correct trade. So we have the Phoenix Suns acquiring Royce O'Neal and David Roddy, the Brooklyn Nets acquiring Keita Bates-Diop, Jordan Goodwin, and 3 future second-round picks, and the Memphis Grizzlies acquiring Yuta Watanabe, Chimezie Metu, and a first-round pick swap from the Phoenix Suns.
Oh, wow.
So Phoenix getting Royce O'Neal is definitely the big part of this deal. He was going to be a guy that was going to get moved somewhere. There were several teams that were interested in him, and this is a good move for Phoenix. I could definitely see, he's been a starter for the Utah Jazz when they were a perennial playoff team. Even Brooklyn for parts of last year, he was really good with Irving and Durant, who he is back with. And you could see a world where he starts for them in some playoff games if a guy gets injured or if a matchup needs another defender in the starting lineup. So I like it. You really didn't you gave up a bunch of meh players. So yeah. I like it for the Suns.
Rolls Royce is a good piece for them. I definitely like that move for Phoenix. I agree.
Yeah, they gave those Met guys 3 second-round picks and got some forward depth. So I definitely like it for them as well.
I really like this for the Suns, and then for the Nets and the Grizzlies, I thought it was interesting what they got back, with that big trade. And I think for the Nets, I thought that they made a good move there with what they got in that 3-team trade. And then for the Grizzlies, I think it was good for them too.
I mean, another move where the Grizzlies, again, they get NBA players that can play for them.
Yeah,
I was just about to say that. I was like, Utah's at least an NBA player.
He's going back. That's where he started his career.
Yep.
So he's going back to Memphis. And then Brooklyn, I mean, low key, one of the more winners of this deadline, honestly, when you look at it. I mean,
hate to say it.
I mean, but like Royce O'Neal is a guy that you were gonna trade him to a contender, and at the very least you get 3 future second-round picks for the Suns. We don't know. Well, I don't know, Nick, do you have the teams that the picks are for with you?
I think they're just Phoenix's picks.
Okay, if they're Phoenix's picks, then if they're like in future years, I'm gonna assume it's in like 2024, 2027, like stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a 26, 28, 29.
26,
Oh,
28,
those-
29. Okay,
Those are going to be good. Those are going to be high second round picks.
they definitely could be high second round picks because you never know what could happen in the next 5 years. So good move all around, I guess. You could definitely see it
Yeah.
from all the different perspectives.
It's amazing that they can really collaborate and get deals done like that. It is a business.
I'm shocked.
It's cool. It's cool.
It's definitely cool. That was the only 3-team trade we had today. Interestingly enough, I was a bit surprised. Usually you see a lot more. Moving on, we have Patrick Beverley getting traded to the Milwaukee Bucks in exchange for Cameron Payne and a 2027 second-round pick. Bucks needed perimeter defense, and that is what they got with this trade.
Dude, it feels like a Hail Mary.
It's not going to
A
fix
little
all the
bit.
problems, but that's
Yeah.
a guy that Doc will like.
A guy that's played for Doc before.
Yeah, that's a guy Doc will like. That's a Doc favorite. That's like a Tibbs getting Alec Burks back. That's exactly what it's like. It's Doc.
I feel
getting
like Pat Bev is pissed. If I was Pat Bev, I don't know. He was having a good time in Philly, it seemed like.
Did you hear what he said? Like, I think because he has his own podcast
Yeah.
with the one dude, and he was saying, like, yeah, Daryl Morey told me that I wasn't going to get traded, even though I was in rumors. He's like, yeah, don't worry, you're definitely not get traded. And the other guy goes, so Daryl Morey's a liar, then. Just like James Harden. It's like James Harden's like
Daryl
so
Morey-
happy right now. He's getting validated.
Look, it is a business. Daryl Morey is a kind of a liar, but he is also doing his job here.
Yeah.
I think with the moves that the Sixers have made today, they definitely prioritized getting more offensive scoring. Bless you, Nick. They definitely prioritized getting more scoring than defensive guys. When you look at what they did, they traded, Patrick Beverley for, they traded Patrick Beverley, Furkan Korkmaz, Marcus Morris, even Jaden Springer we'll get to later in exchange for Buddy Hield and Cameron Payne. You can see that they want to go more offensive to try to get the load off of a Tyrese Maxey heading into the second half of the year without Embiid.
And even if Embiid can't come back, they're also building for kind of like the future. Like, because you said Buddy Hield is only got this year, so it'll open up some of the books. Getting Pat Bev off the books, even getting a pick back, even though it was a second round pick, even just getting that back, like that's something that can help you, especially when you're a team like the Sixers, who you next year you get Embiid back, you have Tyrese Maxey, who's a stud, and then you get like a cheap player.
Yeah, I think
it helps.
And then I think for the Bucks too, I think Pat Bev will be fine in Milwaukee. I mean, he fits exactly what they need. He's under Doc Rivers. And there's a world where if their perimeter defense and transition defense is still this bad, that they start him. I could definitely see that happening. We've seen him start at the 1, the 2. We've seen him play the 3 before. So
Yeah, I can
with
see
the Clippers. So there's definitely a world where he ends up starting for them later on.
I want to see those. I need to see film of the practices of Dame versus Pat Bev.
Yeah, those two have definitely had their battles before. Second straight year, we've had him and Westbrook. They were on the Lakers last year. And they became like best buddies on the Lakers.
Oh, it's so funny. Anywhere Pat Bev goes.
Maybe Lillard and Pat Bev will become best buddies.
What a world that would be.
What a world that we are living in now. Yeah. Now moving on, let's go to a deal that we mentioned briefly about before, and that's the Pacers acquiring Doug McDermott in exchange for Marcus Morris, who's getting bought out by the Spurs, and a 2029 second round pick via the LA Clippers. Doug McDermott, not a huge name, but this season, he's still, I want to say, top 5 in the league in 3-point percentage. Like, he's still lighting it up. Yes, he's shooting 44% from 3 this year. And he goes and fills, a role that the Pacers need. He goes back to the Pacers where he spent 3 seasons before earlier in his career, including a year. I didn't even know this, that he averaged, there was a year with Indiana where he averaged 13.5 points per game. That surprised me. Like, I don't know, and I consider myself to be a very big stat nerd and know these guys like career high averages. I did not know he had a 13 point per game season.
That's exactly, if they can get that out of him, that is perfect for Indiana, especially when you got rid of Buddy.
It was surprising, I would say.
Buddy buckets for Dougie McBuckets.
Yeah,
Dude,
very good move.
Trying to look at his free throw, I'm trying to figure out why he's shooting 58% of the line this year.
Who?
Oh, how many is he taking? That's hilarious.
Not many.
Who is it? Doug McDermott is shooting 58% from the free throw line.
That's an odd stat. That's funny.
He's got 2 over 2 games, a 2 for 3, and not much more.
Let's see. He's 10 for 17 at the free throw line this season.
58%.
Yeah, 58% at the line. But yeah, I'm gonna go look and see where he ranks on the leaderboard, because every time I go check like top 3-point shooters in the league, I just see Doug McDermott up there. I'm like, he really? He's really up that high on the list.
He's knocked down, man.
But yeah, just a great move from the Pacers. Something that we haven't really talked about with the Pacers was well, just as far as this season with the moves that they made, giving up Buddy Hield and Bruce Brown earlier in the season, was them not really having as much wing depth now. Like, they don't have many shooting guards now. Like, are they going to start Mathurin at the 2 now? Do you guys think? Like, what do you guys think their starting lineup is now?
I don't really know.
McDermott. Okay, McDermott is 8th in the league in 3-point percentage. Just ahead of our boy Sam Merrill. Shout out to Sam Merrill.
It's rigged.
Love Sam Merrill.
Sam Merrill's a sniper.
Indiana's starting lineup?
Well, let's see. I'm going to go look and see what their starting lineup has been the last few games. They've had some really big performances. They're currently down to the Warriors.
One of the guys that I picked up in fantasy was Aaron Nesmith, and he's been balling for them too.
Yeah, he's been very good for them recently.
I need some more Jarris Walker minutes.
Right?
Let's see. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. They've been starting Halliburton and Andrew Nembhard together.
Okay.
In the backcourt, so then you can still get TJ McConnell off the bench. You get 3 really good point guard play there with Nesmith, Siakam, and Turner. That's a good starting 5. Now you got McDermott off the bench. You get
McDermott and Mathurin off the bench. Oof.
Yeah, that's gonna be nice.
Just have TJ McConnell get them the ball and you're scoring.
Yeah. Last few deals, nothing really crazy. That was really the last main.
You're telling me
that really
the Kings and Bucks trade wasn't crazy?
Yes,
because I don't know what that blew my mind.
We have Milwaukee sending Robin Lopez to the Sacramento Kings in exchange for cash, and Robin Lopez gets waived. We have the Celtics getting Jaden Springer from the Sixers in exchange for a 2nd-round pick. Then the Celtics sending Delano Banton to the Portland Trailblazers for a heavily protected 2nd-round pick. This was the deal that we all expected the Blazers to make today.
Oh, 100%.
And then the final deal, the final buzzer beater deal of the deadline, was Golden State trading Corey Joseph to the Indiana Pacers to get waived in exchange for a 2nd-round pick. So that is the trade deadline. Now, on to players that have gotten waived or bought out today. There's a very large number. The Kyle Lowry thing isn't official, but that's definitely going to happen soon in the next couple days. He will get bought out. We have Spencer Dinwiddie from the Raptors, Joe Harris from the Pistons. That's going to be someone to watch out for.
Former first 7th pick Killian Hayes. I know Detroit is rejoicing.
Dude, that honestly surprised me. That surprised me that they waived him.
They couldn't get anything for him, and literally the only way, because that's the thing, he started 30 games for them, and his shooting numbers were awful.
He's played the most games for them since he entered the league. I'm pretty sure he has the worst plus minus of any player that has played in the 2020s.
I see so many TikToks from like Detroit fans of them just like going crazy because Killian Hayes is not there anymore because they hate him there. They absolutely hate him.
Well, he is now gone. Other guys, we have Daniel House from the Pistons, Marcus Morris in the Spurs, Victor Oladipo and the Grizzlies, Corey Joseph from the Pacers, Robin Lopez from the Kings, Thaddeus Young from the Nets, Furkan Korkmaz from the Sixers. You know what? Didn't mention this before. Furkan Korkmaz, he's been requesting a trade for like 3 years.
Finally got his deal,
Finally
man.
got his deal, and now he's out of the league. So congratulations, Furkan Korkmaz. And then final one, James Bouknight from the Hornets got waived and released as well. Now something to note, something that we've talked about earlier on this podcast, with the new CBA, there are several teams that are not going to be able to sign buyout players because they're above the second apron as far as the tax goes. They spent too much money on the tax, and they're ineligible to sign a player that has been waived with a pre-existing salary of $12.4 million. Those teams are the Celtics, Nuggets, Clippers, Warriors, Heat, Bucks, and Suns. So those teams cannot make any real significant buyout moves. So other than that, that leaves teams like the Lakers to make a move. Spencer Dinwiddie might end up a Laker. We're seeing that. There definitely some guys out there in the buyout market, like all those names I mentioned. Nothing crazy good, but guys that could get you 5 minutes in a playoff game if you need it, or down the stretch in a season.
Those are all veteran players that any of those contending teams would want. So it is kind of unfortunate that those are the teams that can't actually make any waiver claims, because those are like the players that they would want, like a veteran guy. Like I know when the Cavs were contending for ships back when LeBron was here the second time, that's who we kind of went after, like the waiver market.
Yeah, especially the 2017 year, or the year after we won the title. That's when good old Darren Williams, man. But yeah, definitely some impact guys there. Now, before we get to winners and losers, I think that it's worth talking about the players that stayed put. This trade deadline was definitely one that you could say was more about the players that didn't get moved, more so than the players that did get moved. So I have on this graphic 8 of the guys that weren't moved, but there are so many more. Mainly, we got DeJounte Murray. He's still staying in Atlanta. We have Chicago not making a deal at all today. Bruce Brown is still going to be in Toronto. Kyle Kuzma, D'Angelo Russell. The Lakers didn't make a move. Andrew Wiggins, Malcolm Brogdon. Even lower end guys like Tyus Jones. He did not get moved. Jeremy Grant didn't get moved. I don't know if I already said him, but even guys like, I thought for sure the Clippers would have sent PJ Tucker or Bones Highland somewhere where they could play.
That's my loser.
Oh, dude, PJ Tucker went off on Instagram, and then
my loser of the day is PJ Tucker.
I feel so bad for him.
Yeah, but what do you guys think about? I guess mainly the Hawks, Bulls, and Lakers not making a deal today.
I'll give on the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah.
So for the Bulls, you guys, I think, heard this from me before the deadline. I was saying they should try to just trade DeMar DeRozan, because DeRozan's gonna be a unrestricted free agent in the summer, and I think like in free agency this year, now that the Bulls didn't trade him before the trade deadline, that there's gonna be a good chance that he ends up signing with a different team. And
what's odd is Shams reported that Chicago wants to keep DeRozan long term. I don't like. I don't know.
I don't think they should keep them long term.
No.
No.
They should have. I think the Bulls should have traded him for like the best trade offer that they were gonna get for him this year before the trade deadline.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know.
They need the
Maybe they're waiting for
they needed to move on from him before trade deadline, and during the off season, I think they need to move on from Zach LaVine, and I think they need to start building around Kobe White here, starting in the off season.
Yeah. Real quick before we keep going, want to give a quick shout out to our guy Robin Lopez, who was traded. He is at the Timberwolves Bucks game, sitting behind the scorer's table, reading a book during the game. Dude, look. I'll give a just quick thing. I don't give many stories from my year working with the Cavs last season as a ball boy, but after every single game and before every game, he would always walk in and out of the arena with a book and sandals and shorts on, no matter what the weather it was. He was always reading a book. And
oh my.
Robin Lopez is always one of my favorite characters. But yes, he is reading a book at the scorer's table. We have a shock bomb as we were recording. Another guy to add to the buyout market is Danilo Gallinari is getting bought out from the Pistons. So that is another name that is going to be.
I saw that one coming.
Another good name there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Nick, what are your thoughts on these teams not making a deal? If you want to focus on one or talk about them all, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, we mentioned a lot of guys. I don't know, the Chicago thing, maybe they're just waiting for like the DeMar, Levine, Lonzo Ball trio to come to fruition. I don't know. It's the only thing I can think. But another name that was kind of thrown around in that combo was Jonas Valanciunas of the Pelicans. They decided to hold on to him. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent in his contract year as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's tough. It makes sense, and it does. It makes sense for a lot of the situations to hold on to those guys, except for the Bulls.
Yeah.
Bulls definitely should have moved on from DeMar. I agree 100% with you, Ben.
But we talked about the Bulls last week, or just how they want to get to the playoff game, sell it out, get some mills.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah. At the beginning of the season, this is honestly going exactly how we predicted it to go this season, to give ourselves a pat on the back. When talking about the Bulls and Raptors and talking about how they're kind of in the same tier at the beginning of the season, but thinking that the Bulls, well, at least for me, would be better because, or at least record-wise, because the Raptors would trade their guys and the Bulls would go another full season with this core, then that's exactly what is going to happen. They're going to most likely make the play-in tournament. They are going to have a shot to make it as well, depending on their scenario. Say what you want about DeMar DeRozan, but in a winner-go-home situation, especially since his Bulls career, I know his Raptors playoff career was kind of trash, but with him and the Bulls, a situation with the Bulls versus the Magic for a playoff for the AFC, that'd be a solid game, and I might have to take the Bulls in that one. So they could go for it the rest of the year to make a playoff appearance.
Agreed. DeMar's a scorer.
We heard that reports that Golden State was trying to get Alex Caruso. They were trying to get Drummond. But those did not happen. The Bulls, wanting to keep those guys. What do you guys think about the Hawks as well, standing pat as well? This is a team that we thought was going to blow it up, really the whole season. They've been one of the bigger disappointments, but playing better recently, had us maybe thinking that they'd go in the opposite direction and try to keep it together.
I kind of feel like they're in a worse spot even than the Bulls now.
Yeah.
Like if there was a team, if we would have predicted the Raptors, the Bulls, and the Hawks all to kind of be in the same position, which we had a little bit more faith in the Hawks, but we kind of thought it could go this way as well, I guess. I would say the Hawks were probably like the second most likely team to hold on to their guys.
Yeah.
after the Bulls and the Raptors were the most likely to trade him.
Yeah.
But the Hawks, I feel like, are now in a worse position than the Bulls, just because of based on what I've seen from both teams this year.
Yeah. Definitely one of the bigger disappointments on the season, just of them playing, and now one of the bigger disappointments on trade deadline day, not getting rid of DeJounte Murray.
They should have dealt him and Capella.
They needed to get rid of both. They could have gotten such a good deal. They could have gotten some first-round picks out of both of those, and then started building around Trey again with a brand new, like, build around Trey, Onyeka, and have first-round picks and have, like, good guys come in to pair with them. Like, that would have been, like, a perfect rebuild, because it wouldn't take like a normal rebuild where it takes like 4 to 5 years. It literally will take like a year turnaround.
I'm sure Dallas would have given up, a decent package for Capella.
Well, so
100%.
a team that was interested, they were talking this morning about DeJounte Murray, was the New Orleans Pelicans.
Ooh, that'd be tough.
They were in talks about it, but it fell through because the Pelicans didn't want to really give up any of their core players.
I would give up McCollum in a heartbeat to go with DeJounte, BI, and Zion.
They wanted to pair them together.
I heard the Hawks wanted Herb Jones back in like a DeJounte Murray deal with the Pelicans, but the Pelicans just didn't want to give up
Jones either.
Herb Jones for DeJounte.
It's understandable.
Which is
based off of this year, yeah.
It's understandable, but also like I don't know, because Herb Jones, he's a great defender, but you have so much other young talent on that roster. Is he the guy eventually that you're going to want to pay? Especially when you have Trey Murphy, who's also there, plays similar position, similar roles. Trey Murphy, obviously a way better offensive player, can shoot it. And of course,
I know what you're saying.
You still have Ingram, you still have Zion.
Didn't they just give an extension to Trey too?
To Trey,
or was that Herb Jones?
No. Sorry, they gave the extension to Herb Jones.
Oh, okay.
But if
I knew it was one of the two.
But if you eventually you're not going to be able to pay all of them. You're just not. That's not how. That's not how what's going to happen. So you're going to eventually have to choose.
Well, I mean, to the same point, you can't pay DeJounte either. Then to the same point.
Yeah, true. But he may raise your ceiling for this year. That might be if they were to do
That's a good point.
One of the teams I was surprised that also didn't make any moves, if we want to talk about another team, is Portland. Like, to me, that's huge that they didn't. They could have gotten someone to pair with that young core. Just getting rid of one of the two guys, Brogdon or Grant.
You know what? Maybe they couldn't though, and that's why they weren't dealt.
What do you mean couldn't?
Someone would have wanted Brogdon.
Maybe Portland didn't. Maybe none of the deals were good enough for Brogdon. For Brogdon's case, maybe the deals just weren't good enough. In a return, like we heard that the Knicks value, it was Fournier, Grimes, and a first. Brogdon is way better than that type of package. And with Jeremy Grant, teams may not have wanted his super large contract. So
that's true.
It's not as much of a surprise to me that the Blazers didn't make a deal like that, because if you're the Blazers, why should I give you Malcolm Brogdon, who's a very solid player, for not much in return when he could help mentor Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe, and then Jeremy Grant too. If you're the Mavericks, I would have loved Jeremy Grant on the Mavericks.
You know what? Where I thought of a destination for Jeremy Grant, but I was surprised this team didn't make a move. Was Golden State?
Yeah, I mean,
I thought they would make a move to upgrade, because they're kind of not having a great year.
That's another situation where if I'm on any other team, it's like, why would I want Wiggins? Why would I want Chris Paul right now? And Kuminga's playing too well for them to include in a deal right now. Like, you need to keep him if you're Golden State. To me, I'm more so surprised that the Lakers ended up not making a deal. Like, course, because it's the Lakers, you hear them every single day in trade rumors. And for this to
Right.
be a season where they end up making 0 transactions at this point is it's definitely a surprising, turn of events, but not one that I'm upset at whatsoever. Because the options just really weren't that great for them. Like, I think their best option would have probably been a shooter or a center, which would have been like a Buddy Hield,
Yeah.
or a Drummond who the Bulls decided to keep. So I mean, it really works out. The buyout market is really where they're going to make their moves this season.
Yeah, as much as we all talk about the Lakers and we all want them to make those moves, I don't know if I would want to move their only assets to move. They have a first round pick in 29 that has been being tossed around that's a draft asset or a trade asset. But in 2029, you're not going to have AD, you're not going to have LeBron. You're going to need that first round pick. So don't move that. And then same the other guys, D'Angelo Russell, who's been playing great. Why would you move him? Austin Reeves, same thing. He's been playing good. One of LeBron's favorites. Why would you move him? Those are the kind of those are the only trade assets you really heard of being tossed around there. So I'm with you, Miles. I'm glad they didn't make a move.
Yeah, for sure. Ben, what do you think about the Lakers?
I'm glad that they didn't make a move as well, and I think with the buyout market here, with guys that are available on that buyout market, I think they should try to pick up Joe Harris. And I think that because really they haven't been a good 3-point shooting team this season. And I think if you can add him, that would, I would think, definitely improve your 3-point shooting as a team for the Lakers. That would help.
100%
And
agree.
I think
Yeah, for sure. Like the Lakers, they shoot the least amount of threes in the NBA. Number 30, they shoot less than 31 3-pointers a game. And then I'm pretty sure I want to look at their yes. Exactly. And then so they shoot the least amount of threes in the NBA, and then they give up the third most threes in the NBA. In today's NBA, I don't care what your roster is looking like, you're just not gonna win the math problem. Like sometimes
Yeah.
the NBA just comes down to math. Like Joe Mazzulla, I think, is like the biggest coach in the NBA with this. Like you hear like in post game interviews sometimes he gets asked like, "Oh, what happened in this game? Like, why'd you guys lose?" "Oh, we got out mathed." Then it's really simple. Like if you're not shooting threes and you're giving up threes, you're not gonna win the game. You're not gonna win the math problem.
3 points are more than 2. 100%.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, definitely nice there. Yeah, I mean, do you guys really have anything else on the trade deadline? I guess we want to talk winners and losers.
Winners and losers.
You guys had my losers. My losers were Quinn Grimes and PJ Tucker.
Yeah.
Those are my
Quentin
losers.
Grimes, man. I do feel bad for him.
I'm glad he can play in Detroit, but he was on a ball and Knicks squad, and
he was on a team that was a conference championship contender.
I don't think he was happy there, though. I do not think he was happy there, though. That's why I think he might be happy about this sort of deal. It might be a thing where, as a young player, he's 23 years old. He might look back on this situation now and be like, "Nah, I wish I enjoyed this a little bit more." If it doesn't get back to a great team like this, but also
I see what right.
Just even when you hear the names New York to Detroit, even a European will tell you that's not a good sign.
No, Bojan Bogdanovic will tell you. They'll tell you immediately. Yeah, talking about biggest winners, we've talked about the Mavericks. I think that they're huge winners with this. I talked about Brooklyn low-key being a solid winner. They didn't make any crazy moves, but at the end of the day, they acquired Dennis Schroder and a bunch of second-round picks for not really a whole lot. Guys that they didn't want anyways. Oklahoma City getting Gordon Hayward.
Definitely. The Celtics made a couple good moves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Celtics getting Tillman will be good.
One of
Well,
my low-key winners would also be like Phoenix. Just getting Royce. Like honestly, that's like a perfect depth guy for them come playoff time. Like they're already like a complete team. You already have like almost every position filled with like really good guys, and then you just add another one for depth. That's like, especially in a loaded West, that's like a low-key winner who, again, not like the Mavericks, not like the Sixers or the Pacers, who didn't make like 3 or 4 deals. They just made one, and that was perfect.
Yeah, something that I was thinking about with the Suns too that I didn't mention before is that in that trade they traded away Jordan Goodwin, who isn't a crazy name or whatever, but now they do not have a single point guard on their roster. That's the only thing that like has me, a little worried about the Suns, is that they don't have a traditional point guard on their team. That's why I thought for sure that Tyus Jones would be the move.
That is wild.
But
well, maybe they could be in the.
Unless I'm forgetting someone, do they have a?
Oh, I was just about to say. You said
they can't get Dinwiddie.
No, they can't get Dinwiddie or Lowry, can they?
No, they cannot. So
no.
Wow, I was just about to say that'd be perfect for them, but no, you're right.
They can't because of the new CBA. So them not having a point guard is like the one big thing that scares me, especially if Beal or Booker gets injured. But even not, like, just it's always nice to just have a traditional point guard on the roster. But they've been playing great recently without having that. So they definitely could make it work. Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, they're all high IQ players.
That's obviously an internal decision based on comfort level. So,
I was gonna say, who brings up the ball? Who handles the ball? Booker, Beal,
and Beal.
Those are the guys that are going to bring the ball up. So if you don't need a traditional point guard, why keep a traditional point guard?
It's going to be playmaking by committee there for sure. Because even Nurkic is a very solid playmaking center, as well. Losers, there really aren't many teams, I feel like,
Toronto.
that are losers.
That give
other than
my
Toronto.
biggest winners now.
Utah.
Other than Toronto, yeah, maybe Utah.
Maybe
Ben,
Utah.
Ben, who are your biggest winners if you have any?
For me, it would be the Knicks because of the trade they made with the Pistons today. Super good move by them. That puts them as a championship contender, in my opinion, and that makes them even more scarier team and super good team that will be tough to beat. And I think the Mavericks were big winners, and the Nets were big winners, and the Cavs were just like staying put like I thought they should. I think that makes them big winners in my opinion. And who else? I'd say the Thunder too. That was a great move going out getting Gordon Hayward to help make them an even better team in a really competitive Western Conference that they're trying to
go
do
for
their best in with competing right now.
100%.
Yeah, for sure. And just the whole East, man. Like when you look at the whole the grand scheme of things this season for the Eastern Conference, like all these teams are getting players that are going to help them for the second half of the season. Like even the Cavs, they didn't make a trade, but Kobe Altman even said in his post-game conference, and I've said it before, like getting Garland and Mobley back is basically your trade deadline of acquiring players.
Yeah.
So you get that, you get the Celtics acquiring Tillman, the Bucks, even getting Patrick Beverley, the Knicks, Sixers, Pacers, like
Sixers, yeah.
All
everybody.
These teams making moves, man, to get into that get better for the second half of the season. But low-key winner as well, maybe not for any players they acquired or players they lost, but the Hornets for finally picking a direction and going all in.
100%.
True. Just bailing.
Yeah, they I mean, you look at it now. They've traded Rozier, Hayward, and PJ Washington for what, dead salary and a couple picks.
They got new ownership down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's good for them as well. Do you
They're
guys
sick
have
of the
anything
MJ.
else?
I did see that Miles Bridges is going to be an unrestricted free agent. Does he resign?
That was another thing. He
Detroit basketball.
declined all
He fits in Detroit.
Well, he's from Michigan.
Well, I was just talking about crappy players.
But
Crappy human
That
beings.
was a
They're all
surprise
the
for
same.
me that Miles Bridges reportedly disapproved to get traded.
Yeah, I saw that too. Because
Um,
does he have like a no trade clause?
He has a no-win clause.
Clearly. Well, I mean, heck, he just had 41 and 45 in his last 2
He
games.
just went off.
To me, I thought it was like, okay, he's trying to raise his trade value up as a 22-point per game scorer, shooting 37% from three. He is having low key a very good season. He's come back the same player really as he was the last year he was in the NBA before the incident or whatever.
True.
No, that's all I got. I mean, there's a ton to talk about. I'm glad that we can update you guys who are listening with all this news, and hopefully
a big trade deadline. Yeah,
big trade deadline for sure. I mean, do we want to quickly talk about the All-Star Saturday night participants?
We're already over like an hour and a half.
That is true. We can get to that in a future episode. We are gonna preview All-Star.
We'll do that next episode.
I was gonna say we could do that next episode. We got how many more weeks until the All-Star game?
All-Star about break? A week and a half.
Oh yeah, we got time.
Yeah, we definitely have time for sure. Well, Ben, thank you so much for joining us. Unfortunately, Jackson got the flu, so he was out. But Ben, thanks for coming on, man.
It was a pleasure to be on with you guys today, and I had a great time talking about what was going on during the deadline today, and
make sure you guys take it easy on Ben in the comments.
You guys.
I don't think you had too many hot takes today, but they're ruthless.
But yeah,
you definitely came on an information-packed episode, Ben. We're glad to have you.
Yes,
thank you,
for
sir.
Sure. Definitely love to have you again. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll have the links to the Spotify and the Instagram down in the description below. Make sure to check out the Spotify. Give us a listen. Give us a 5-star rating. Trying to cook those books and those numbers to try to get rolling. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will all catch you in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.